Hi everybody, this is Pete from PA Labs and this is video 2 on the animation demo stuff. So I'm kind of picking up where we left off. So I've got a bunch of hidden code that's all commented out that we're going to get to. But basically all I've done really is come in and put in a gauntlet. Okay, so if we open up the image, whoops, what am I doing? Project, open project folder. Okay, and if we come over here to images, I went and found my gauntlet image and have dropped it into the system. And instead of loading their image, I'm loading a no longer is it a 0. We can actually, I believe, take this off altogether. Oh no, we got to leave that in there because other things are referencing it. But here's my gauntlet, and I think we put it up into the system. So, so looking at our screen, it hasn't changed dramatically. I have it to where we can still see these blocks moving around, and here's my little cursor down here. So what we want to do first is to get the cursor to move seamlessly between the in the graphics screen and out of the graphics screen, and it's not a lot of work. So what I'm going to do is comment this block of code out. This is their original code, and instead I'm going to comment in a replacement block of code. Let's see, that goes to about there. And then I'm going to get rid of this chunk of code there. Okay, so now here, what I've done is said, okay, we're going to look at the window, mouse, X, and Y. Where is that cursor on our screen? And this is using window, mouse, X, and Y against the window. So what we want to do is compare where the mouse is to our game screen. And this makes it quite nice because we can say, okay, if it's greater than 0, remember we put that up against the left wall, and then if it's less than width, or if it's great, the Y is greater than the Y of our game screen, which is the top boundary, then we also want to check to see that the Y is less than its beginning and how long it is. So basically, we framed him in by our our game screen parameters, which are nice and politely stored into the variable game screen, which is of type gadget that we created when we got rid of the canvas. Okay, so now we're going to examine the mouse and do all of this standard stuff. I'm keeping all of his code stuff in here, so his stuff all works just the way it was. I've just gotten rid of it from we're swapping in versus swapping out. All right, so now when we run this, notice I got my cursor way up here at the top of the screen. And come on, here we go. So we got our cursor up here. Now watch that cursor change as we cross that boundary. So now we have our gauntlet, okay? Now, that's all beautiful, and if I go off the screen, and then I come back on the screen, and if I go off the screen, so there you have the magic seamlessness of the cursor transforming based on where he is. And the system automatically handles this for us, which is a very nice little feature that be able to do. So let's come on down here and say, okay, now I want to introduce you, now that we have that working pretty cool. I mean, this in a replacement block of code, this is my code here where all we really did was check this versus down here. I believe his code was right here and say, okay, if it's released, then we're going to do this stuff here. I just said, hey, track the mouse and see where he is, and we're going to release or capture based on the mouse movement itself. Now, we don't need this. Well, no, I'm going to go ahead and leave that in the project because I plan to put this out there later, hopefully today, maybe tomorrow. And so we still have his keyboard up and down and left and right and all this junk in here, but more and more we're just going to say, you know what? I don't think we need any of this. I'm going to go ahead and comment that out of here as well. All right, now what we want to do, I want to introduce you to is a couple of objects. Now, you've been following along with my videos and you know how relatively, and I'll say the word even if you won't, I'm kind of fanatical when it comes to modules and stuff. And I don't, to be completely honest, I think I've overdone it a little bit here, but it doesn't bother me because I like modules. So I have these two little lovely modules. They have no public functions, none whatsoever. So really, they're a structure. And I think I could probably delete all this back and get it back to just being a structure. And that would be fine too. I put this down here because I was thinking I was going to have methods that applied to this, that kind of thing. And I still can if I keep it this way. So that's why I'm keeping it this way. Here, I just made that up. Sounded good, didn't it? So we have an overall animation object that is what frame are we displaying? And we're going to load up a collection of frames down here. And that's the frame object. We want to know exactly what row and column, that would be Y and X, that you want to place this particular animation. How fast in milliseconds is the frame speed that we're displaying it for. And then we have a timer to keep track of this guy's speed and where he is versus any others. And then we have a binary. Do we display the animation or do we not display the animation? So you can actually build these ahead of time and just turn it on and turn it off as you want to see them or not. And then we have our list of frames. Now, the frame object is literally all it is a sprite. Okay, so a sprite is different than an image. You cannot load an image and put it into a sprite and think the sprite world is going to handle it. Sprites have a whole lot more features and stuff that goes along with them. So there is functions within static over here to convert an image to a sprite and a sprite to an image, so you can interchangeably go back and forth. But pretty much what you do is you load a sprite from a file just like you load an image from a file, but then it's a sprite, it's not an image. So pretty much all of your image commands work just fine, except now instead of image, it's sprite. So what I've done, so this is the structure we're going to play with, okay? Those are the two structures we're playing with a little bit of extra stuff around it. And then we have this build animations. Now, the build animation is an important thing. He comes in and says, okay, you call me and hand me an animation object. Okay, we're going to instantiate an object and pass it to him of type animation. And then you can give me a sheet name, a sprite sheet name, and that's going to be assumed to be inside images. Okay, so down here, we're going to have to load that up. And then we need to know, let's see, we need to know speed. How fast do you want this to play? And where do you want it on the screen? And this is our game screen, okay? Now, first thing we do is clear out a work image, get this stuff all cleaned up. We come in here and we create our, we take the object and basically we're initializing it. And then we come down here and we say, okay, our directory is going to be our image file. And you could actually have sprites in a separate one or sprite sheets in a separate one. That's fine too. So we're going to make sure that the sheet exists. And do note, I'm not adding an extension. I'm expecting the file name you give me to be the full file name. So we're going to load the image up. And we're turning on a few sprite things here. These are some of the parameters you can throw in here. And then I stole all of this from Conquest. So Conquest used a 36 by 36 grid, really, for the solar systems and stuff. So this will take any size sprite sheet, however many across or however many long, and it's assuming that you're going to give me its full block. So if you got it 4 by 5, you're going to have 20 sprites in that. And it slices them all up. It grabs the image. We loaded this as an image. We then free a sprite. We then come down here and then we create the sprite, and we're going to draw the image to the sprite. And then we come down and say, okay, now we're going to start slicing and dicing this, right? We're going to cut him up into each of his individual frames, and then we're going to save those down here in a list of frames. And then when he's all done, he's done. Okay? So what have we done? We have actually loaded an animation object with everything he needs to be able to be displayed on the screen in an animation form. So that's the new code that I've added to this. We'll come back over here and let's start at the top, and I'm going to go ahead and bring some of this hidden code in so you can see it and you don't have to watch me type it all the time, which is kind of crazy. Okay, so we'll come up here and get rid of that. And as an example, I've defined explode and wormhole. These are types of animations. I've also gone in here and said, I'm going to create a list of animations, okay? So we have a list of these objects, just like you've been doing all along with all the other module stuff I've given you, okay? Now, we come down here, and sprites are kind of funny. You can't load sprites until after you've loaded the window screen, okay? If I moved this load sprite up here in between form main and windowed screen, it will error. You cannot load sprites until the windowed screen is open. So we have to do this stuff down here. And this is where we find the next block of code, okay? And what we're going to do is say, if we wanted just to build those two standalone guys, we could say build animation explode. This is our variable we defined up here as type animation. We pass him our file name. There's our file name. And let's see, somewhere I think I have that. Here we go. So we have images and we have explosion right there. There you go. There's explosion and there's new wormhole. Okay, so we're going to have explosion and wormhole. So I'm loading them in. That's an awful slow speed. So this is the speed in milliseconds. So 80 milliseconds. That's pretty quick. Considering 1,000 milliseconds, that's less than 1/10 of a second. Okay, and then where he's going to put them. Now, he's not really going to put them in there because this is just an example to show you how you could load those up. And then later on use them. You could actually come in and turn them on and do all kinds of stuff. Let me see if I turned those on automatically. Oh, I did. Look. So they are set to turn on the minute you put them on the screen. So if we come down here, our next block, oh, let's go ahead and get rid of this. We don't need these anymore as getting rid of stuff. Our next block of code is inside here. Okay, so, and I want to point this out in super spades as well. Some of this stuff is placement is very, very important. So what I've done here is your mouse is inside our game window. If it makes it past that if sentence right there, it is inside our game window. And at this point, I am looking at the mouse. I have examined the mouse, and I want to know if you have pushed the left or the right button. And if you push the left button, I'm going to say build an animation. Look, we're adding a record to our list. We're going to come in here and add a record to our list, and we're going to load the explosion if I click the left mouse button, and we're going to use wherever the mouse's location is on our game screen to do this. If I hit the right button, he's going to load the wormhole at speed 80 at the mouse location and play that. He's going to load those up into this list. Now, where do we display the list? That's the big question. If I put it here, it never shows. What we have to do to say, I'm doing this, is after we've cleared the screen, now we come down here and we say, okay, we've cleared the screen. We're on frame 2. You're looking at frame 1 on the display of the game, and we're building frame 2. So what we're going to do here is we're going to iterate through. Let me go ahead and uncomment this. We're going to iterate through our list of boom list, okay? We're going to start at the first and go all the way through the whole list. And we're going to say, okay, select element X. And we're going to say, if your display animation is false, I don't care about you. I'm done with you. I'm going to continue on with the list. Okay, so when we create a animation, let me jump over to the animation. Let's see. Yes, here on Boom. This guy here. Our current frame is 0, and our timer is set to zero. Okay? So our timer being set to 0 is what we're keying in on. If the timer is 0, in other words, this is brand new, then what we want to do is set our timer to the current time. Now, what is current time? That's your next question. So way up here after the repeats, I've grabbed the current time. This is the lapsed milliseconds since this program started running, okay? So basically it's a relative thing. So this is the elapsed milliseconds is our current time. So we come down here back to our current time. So we initialize, this is initializing the timer with now. So then we can say if current time minus the current, the timer time, okay, the last time we did something, which our first time through is going to obviously be current time. So it'll be 0 is greater than or equal to our frame speed. Then, which our first time through, that's false. So then we skip all of this junk and we come down here and we say, okay, select the current element, the current frame, and display transparent current frame at the cursor location that he was created with. So when I left click, We create him with an X and Y and a speed and an image and all that. And we're going to display image 0. Now, this is going to run faster than you can imagine. So it will hit this step maybe 5, 6, 10 times before this timer ever is greater than 80. Okay? Think about that for a second. So it actually repaints that screen so fast that we need to keep displaying the current image until the timer changes. And when the timer changes, we know we've hit 80 milliseconds. And then what do we want to do? We want to increment our current frame to the next frame. So what we do is increment the frame. But then we got to make sure we haven't run out of frames. If you've got 5 frames that you're iterating, what do you want to do when you get to, you've just finished displaying 5, now it wants to display 6. If you try to display 6, it's going to error out and crash. So do you restart over and play 0 again and start the counter, let it run indefinitely? Or do you want to go, okay, we're done, which is what I'm doing. And we're saying, okay, if the current frame is greater than our list size, then we're done. What I want you to do is delete the list record out of our list and then just keep going. Okay? So that way we're not building up thousands and thousands of these list records. As they get created, we play them. As they go away and we finish them, we delete them and they're gone. So this stays a very small loop, and so it works beautifully. Now, if we've incremented our list, we've gone from 0 to 1, then what we want to do is say, okay, let's grab that frame. We're on frame 1, and we're going to display frame 1, and then we're going to move our timer to be now. So the next 5 loops, it comes through. He's going to display this guy down here. Otherwise, he increments and displays this guy and increments our timer. You see how that works? So now let's go see it in action. So this is an awful lot to get your head wrapped around because this loop is running constantly. Regardless of what you're doing in the rest of your application, this loop is just running to beat the band. Okay, so we come in here, our application runs, we'll have our gauntlet somewhere. I think he initializes to the center of the screen regardless of where the mouse is. And then we can say, okay, let's come on down here, and here's our gauntlet. So I'm going to left click, and then we have our explosion, and I can have many of them on the screen as fast as I can click them, which really isn't very fast. Or I can click the other one, and we can click these guys. Isn't that cool? Okay, now some things else you can do with sprites is that sprites have a collision mode. So if you fire a bullet, okay, so a bullet is going to go in a straight line, whichever direction you pointed it, and it's going to blink its way across the screen. So this animation loop, see how that works? I just love how that just does that, by the way. So anyhow, that animation loop now has to get modified because this is a static animation, okay? So the static animation doesn't move. He stays exactly where he is. So what we also might want to do is add an animation. Let's say we can, maybe in the next video, I'll bring an animation of somebody walking, and we can walk him across the screen and have it look right, okay? But for this video and your introduction into animations, okay, I got to move the cursor out of the way. Okay, you can see how pretty cool this is. everywhere I click, I get that animation played, and the animation plays to the end. And if I click fast enough, we can have 2 or 3 of them on the screen still running their own speeds. Okay, so that is how this is managed in a windowed screen. Okay, now for those who want to keep up, I will, at the end of this video and getting it on the web, I'll put this project out there on my website for you to download and play with. And then as I do additional videos and we add more and more to it, I will continuously update this particular project. So I want to say thanks for your time, and I hope you all have enjoyed the video.